Yeah, so I would like to welcome all of you to this British Nigeria Law Forum event. It's, I think, our fourth or fifth event this year, and we're very pleased to be able to host an event like this one, a webinar on wealth creation and legacy planning. I'm Ololade Sharmi. I am the present chair of the British Nigeria Law Forum, and I am also a commercial barrister practicing from a barrister's chambers in London called Five Paper. It brings me immense pleasure to be able to, with my executive team at the BNLF, pull together an event like this, because much of our events focus on the more technical aspects of our legal practice and career development. But an event like this is targeted towards our personal financial concerns and making sure that all that money that you as very, very successful lawyers are earning are being put to, that money is being put to work for you and for your future and for your families. I welcome all of you and our speaker, Jerry Whyte, this evening. And I would at this point say that those of you that have registered, and this is very, very kind of Jerry and the Belvedere Group, and those of you that have registered and are attending this event will have an opportunity to have a free consultation with the Belvedere Group if you choose to take it up. All you have to do is inquire on the Belvedere Group website or email Jerry directly and mention that you attended this event. So there's a freebie for you right there. It's one that I'm sure I'll be taking up very soon. Now it's my immense pleasure to introduce our exceptional speaker, Jerry. So Jerry is a financial and wealth management expert, and he's a chartered member of the Institute of Securities and Investments. Jerry has specific experience of advising Black professionals and in particular lawyers. He runs a wealth management firm that I've already mentioned, Belvedere Wealth Management Limited, which is directly authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. And one of Jerry's partners at BWM, Belvedere Wealth Management, is the well-known TV financial advisor, Emmanuel Asukwo. And funny enough, a few months ago, Emmanuel actually came to speak at my church. So he's a very entertaining and educated man. BWM is part of the Belvedere Group, which provides broader services, including financial protection, tax planning, and insurance brokerage. BWM has offices in the UK and, quite importantly, in Namibia, in Africa, from which it serves an international client base. So we're very lucky to have Jerry with us this evening, and I know I'm looking forward to what he has to tell us about wealth creation and legacy planning. So with that being said, enough from me. I'm going to pass over to Jerry, and I'll make him host so that he can load up his presentation, and then we can hear from him.
Fantastic.
Jerry, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Give me a second. Can everybody see that? Yeah, super, fantastic. Well, look, first and foremost, Ololade, thank you so much for having me, and obviously the wider BNLF leadership team. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here to talk on a subject that I'm so passionate about, especially when it comes to us. You know, if I'm to be so bold as to say us, and wealth within our community. So as I said, already been introduced, my name is Jerry Whyte, and I'm the founder and managing partner of Belvedere Wealth Management and the wider Belvedere Group. What we're going to talk about today is just a quick intro, and what I want to do is frame where we are today, because I think it's so important that we're understanding why it is important that we're talking about these sort of subjects. Okay, we're then going to talk about wealth creation in its entirety, and I want to, I'm going to try and challenge you on redefining what wealth is. What does it mean to you? But I'm going to sort of, from my experience of dealing with in wealth management, I'm going to give you my perspective of what I think we should be thinking about, and some other things when it comes to legacy planning and the things that we should be thinking about there. I'm then going to go on to what we call the streams of wealth creation and legacy planning. And there's a few areas I'm going to pick out. So protection, pensions, investments, and some private equity elements that I think everybody here, especially, should be thinking about and looking at. And then we're going to finish off with 5 things that the wealthy do well. There's a little sort of brain teaser there as well in between. So hopefully it won't be too just laborious and you just listening to me. And then, of course, for me, what I love the most is Q&A. So I really want and love questions. So please do get ready for those. About myself, very quickly, the Belvedere Group is probably one of 2 or 3 Black-owned, Black-run, directly authorized firms in the UK. We're super proud of that and wear that with a badge of honor. And as already mentioned, we do have an office in Namibia as well, servicing our international clients, not just here in Europe, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Kenya, etc. In terms of myself, I've been in the industry for over 13 years, working in the international field for over 7.5 years. So I'm well versed on some of the challenges that those who are not just practicing here in the UK, but abroad are facing, and can definitely elaborate a little bit more on some of the things that one should be doing and thinking about from that perspective also. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the world we live in today. Right now, a baby born today is expected to live to 104 years old. A 40-year-old wanting to retire at 60 on 30,000 expenditure per year will spend approximately 2.15 million in retirement. The average cost of raising a child to 21 is around about 230,000 now. And when this stat was done, this was done approximately 2015. The world has only become more expensive since then. So it's probably around about 250,000. I've got 3. I know they're expensive. And then, of course, as we all know, cash is literally losing value on a daily basis to inflation due to simply just not being able to keep up with it. The question we should be asking ourselves is, what is your money doing? Is it working hard for you? Or are you just working hard for it and it's just sitting at home with its feet up, doing nothing for you? Yeah. These things are so important. The reason why, because when we look at our community in a whole, as a collective, the Black community has a considerably low net worth. And I think really as a result of a lack of focus, a lack of emphasis on wealth creation, and of course, a lack of education, which we'll touch on a little bit later. Let's get to wealth creation. So wealth creation, for me, I do believe there is a difference between rich and wealthy. As Robert in Rich Dad, Poor Dad put it, rich is about having money, wealth is about having time. And I really think this is super important, that what we should be framing or thinking about is, how can we get time? Because time is the most important commodity. Now, the conundrum is that we need money, of course, working for us to be able to get that time. But ultimately, we need to be thinking about, how is our money working for us to be able to get that time so we can do the things we want to do rather than the things we have to do. Let's not forget, real wealth is not created overnight, but rather over time. It takes time to build wealth, real wealth. So it's super important that what we're doing today is making sure the money is working hard for you in the right vehicles, growing in the right way, getting the right tax efficient returns, which ultimately allows you to get to where you need to get to and where you want to get to. A lot of the time people ask me, how do we go about creating that time? And we'll talk a little bit later on about some of the things that I think the wealthy do very well. But one of the things that they do very well on is having a focus, having a goal, having an objective. So the question is, again, as I said, what are you doing with your money? What are you doing to help you get to a stage where you can have that time to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it? When we look at wealth creation, I believe there's 3 key ingredients to creating real wealth. First, the ability to make money. Second, time. Forget timing, but rather time in the market. Unfortunately, over my 13 years of experience of dealing with the uber wealthy in places in Europe, in Spain, in the Canary Islands, etc., what I realize is that their wealth has been created over time, in some cases generations. It's not been created overnight. It's not been created over a year or 2 or 5. Yes, of course, you do get some lucky few that might go big with crypto, or they might win the lottery, of course. But really, we must remember that the 3 key ingredients to creating real wealth for, unfortunately, the 99.9% of us is time. It's time. Okay. And then, of course, the third component, or third key ingredient, is compound interest and making sure that our money is working for us. Really, the things we want to be looking at is investing should be like watching paint dry or watching grass grow. If you want excitement, go down to Las Vegas, as somebody once put it. And it's important to note as well that it's not necessarily how much you get paid, but it's rather what you do with it, which determines how quickly you build real wealth. And we'll come on to that a little bit later. The challenge, though, thought process. There is a difference between building wealth and keeping wealth. Which is more important? Which is more important? And this ties nicely into generational wealth, or what we call legacy wealth, family wealth. Wealth that's passed down from one generation to another. You build generational wealth by acquiring generational assets. It sounds simple, but in this day and age where taxes are moving, where the once asset class, which was the most lucrative asset class, is now no longer as lucrative as it once was. The question you should be asking yourself is, are you helping or hindering the next generation? Now, unfortunately, now it's not how much you leave, which was the case when my parents were building wealth. It's not how much you leave which determines how quickly you build generational wealth, but it's what type of asset class, what type of assets you are leaving, which determines how quickly you build wealth. And further on with that, I think the other areas that we should be thinking about when we talk about building wealth, because building wealth is effectively the physical part of it. I think when we look at generational wealth, I think one thing we neglect or negate as a community, and the community as a whole, I've come from a family where as a young person, as a young man, you're told to get out of the room when grown folks were talking about money, or when grown folks were talking about conversations such as money or other elements like that. So for me, when people ask me what should they be doing when it comes to or thinking about generational wealth planning, one of the things that I say is financial education. Are we educating our future children or our children in how to deal with the wealth that we will be inevitably passing down to them? Or are we going to be like the Gucci family, an example of how it nearly went wrong? The first generation creates it, the second generation spends it, the third generation destroys it. Yeah. So what are we doing in terms of, are we just focusing so much just on building now, which I get, but what are we doing all the things behind the scenes to make sure that we're keeping it as well, which is super important when it comes to generational wealth. And there's 2 things I want to really be asking you when it comes to building wealth is, or 2 things I ask my clients is, who are you doing this for? And what are you doing this for? Who are you doing this for? And what are you doing this for? Let's talk about the different streams or the multiple different streams of creating wealth and legacy. What we've got here is an array of different areas that one could focus on and utilize to help create and preserve wealth. Okay, but as I said, what we want to focus on is 4 key areas today. The first one being protection. For me, I have so fortunate to be able to have another office in Namibia and really seeing wealth in its core form. Namibia is for those that don't know, Namibia is a young country in the sense it's only really got its independence 30 years ago from South Africa. And what we see there, even though there's been an element of trying to pass some wealth back to Black people, what we do find there is that the real wealth is still kept with the whites. Okay, and what I find with their wealth generally is typically around three different areas: assets such as land, pensions, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but protection. Two things are guaranteed in life: taxes and death. Why not are we ensuring the latter? Let's talk about protection. So the first being protecting your income. Typically in our community, we are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being broke. What happens if, for example, you get made redundant? What happens if, for example, for those that are self-employed, that paycheck doesn't come through, or that lump of money doesn't come through that month? I spoke to a barrister recently, and it's been 4 or 5 weeks since her last paycheck came through, and she didn't quite plan for that. She didn't quite plan for that lull period. And what she's now finding she's having to do is dip into her savings, dip into her investments to pull money out. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody here, but I'm trying to say is, have you got your backup fund? Have you protected your livelihood, your income? Yeah, have a B fund just in case of emergencies. Protect yourself, the second most important part. You are the most important person in this plan. How many of you have critical illness? How many of you have income protection, for those that can? Yeah, protect yourself, protect your livelihood, as I said already. And then third, as I said, protect your family. What a fantastic way to create generational wealth just from the get-go, by protecting your death. It's going to happen, or sorry, ensuring your death. It's going to happen. As I said, 2 things guaranteed in life: taxes and death. Ensure the latter. You die, you leave your family a life insurance policy or a whole of life policy. You automatically created effectively wealth, because that lump sum is passed down in a tax-free way. How many of you have protected yourselves, have protected your income, have protected your family? Second area that we want to focus on is pensions. For me, the most tax efficient vehicle in the UK. The rules have changed slightly. So before, in previous tax years, you was allowed to save up to 40,000 into a pension every single tax year. Now that's changed. You're now allowed to save up to 60,000 into a pension every single tax year. The beautiful thing about pensions, and as I said, I worked in a lot of different countries and dealt with clients in a lot of different jurisdictions, tax jurisdictions. And even to date, the UK still is, in some places, head above shoulders when it comes to pensions and the contributions, the free contributions you get from the government. What do I mean by that? Those are at a very basic level. Everybody that pays £1 into a pension will get 25p on top, i.e. 25%. For those, of course, everybody's investing today, we all want to generate return. So if I said to you from a very basic level, by doing 0 risk, you're going to get 25% return for doing nothing, you would snap my hand off. You'd bite my hand off. That's what a pension does. From the very basic level, free money from the government. Then for those that are higher rate taxpayers or additional rate taxpayers, you get a further 20 or 25% back into your pocket just by contributing to a pension. I.e., for those who are a higher rate taxpayer, you get a 40% return, no risk. 45% for additional rate taxpayers, 0 risk. Free money, free money. Now, a lot of people say, Jeremy, why would we do a pension? Because you can't get access to it until, you're old and you're decrepit, and by then I want to be free and financially free and living my life. I think there's a misunderstanding there, because remember, a pension or a private pension is different from the state pension. So the state pension you can't get access to until 67, 68. But a private pension you can get access from 55. There's a difference. Typically speaking, or generally speaking, most people look to slow down, retire around that 50, 55 mark. So what you're now building is a pot for later on, a sort of retirement pot, you could say. I don't want to call it retirement pot, but a financial freedom pot. Yeah. Things that we've got to be thinking about. Another great vehicle, a great benefit of pensions, that 0% tax on a monthly basis. One of the only vehicles that grows in a tax-free environment, pays zero tax on the way, and you pay zero tax on a monthly basis. And if you're smart, you can take it out zero tax as well, if done in the right way. But as you can see there, 25% of the pot, no matter how big, can be taken out at 0% tax anyway. So for example, those that might have $1 million in a pension, you could take 250,000 out of the pot tax-free. It's the only vehicle in the UK that allows you to take that much money, paying zero, and get zero with zero tax. How many of you are paying into your pension on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, making sure you're getting that tax-free money? And then when we kick from the outside, when we're sort of passing it down, so that generational wealth element, inheritance tax-free. Well, if you die before 75, of course, there's always a caveat with the government. Third area that I want for us to focus on today is the investments. Now, this is it's such a big piece when we talk about investments, so many different types of investments. So I want to focus on just a few key areas. As you can see, there's a couple of things that we touch on there: stocks and shares, art and wine, property, investment bonds, international, onshore and offshore is what we call it, investment bonds, company investments. So many different things that we could spend hours and hours and hours talking about it. So what I want to do is just focus on one or two areas. And I think the most important area is to talk about stocks and shares. Because when we look at generational wealth, one of the things we should be asking ourselves is what I find, especially with difference between, generally speaking, the sort of white Asian community, Jewish community versus the Black community, is that they use these vehicles very well. For example, junior ISAs for children. What a fantastic way to grow your money in a tax-free, to grow money in a tax-free environment for your children, to help pay for maybe university fees, or to maybe help them set themselves up in maybe a deposit for their first house. What a fantastic vehicle to allow them to give them a head start. For some of us, we didn't have that. Also for yourself, a stocks and shares ISA, which allows you to grow your money in a tax-free environment for yourself. You're allowed to put up to 20,000 in that tax-free environment per year. Other areas which allows you to diversify your portfolio: art, wine, whiskey. Those are all keen on that alternative investment. Property, which, if done correctly, can be a benefit to oneself at a future date. Onshore and offshore investment bonds allows you to grow your money in a tax-free environment. Great for those that are considering retiring outside of the UK, or for those that are considering looking to have a pot of money outside of the UK. So if they want to go live in Dubai or Nigeria or whatever, it allows them to take that money out in a tax-free environment, in a tax-free way. And for those that are running companies, there are so many vehicles, so many opportunities that one should be thinking about when as a business. How do we take the money out in a tax-free environment? Well, one, I already spoke on, pensions. The others will be company investments such as GIAs, general investment accounts, effectively like a company ISA in effect. But the whole point of these investments is to grow your money in the long term, to provide income for over the medium to long term, to help you achieve your goals and objectives, whether that be over the medium, short, medium, and long term. But most importantly, to make sure you remain tax efficient. Now, typically with investments, you've already paid your tax, you've already paid your dues. So what you're really protecting yourself is for future tax, is from future growth. Yeah, protecting the tax on becoming tax efficient on any future growth. One of the key areas that I think we should be considering when it comes to investment is also the private equity side. We do a lot of this stuff with some of the partners that we work with, some of the barristers as well, is allowing one to grow your money, getting a 30% tax relief upfront, tax-free dividends in some cases, and in some cases exempt from capital gains as well if you was to sell those shares. But most importantly, what it allows you to do is invest in startup companies, which allows you to, private equity is a government-backed, these are government-backed vehicles. The VCTs, the EIS are government-backed vehicles, which typically invest in high growth companies, typically. Now these companies, again, are companies that are typically doing very well. Generally speaking, these companies are doing sort of in the millions already. And what they're trying to do is get from there to there. And what this allows you to do is, again, get some tax relief up front, which you can offset against your tax bill, your income tax bill. It allows you to grow your money. And then after you've effectively done your time, so typically on a VCT, you have to hold it for 5 years. On an EIS scheme, you typically have to hold them for 3 years. You'll get your money back as well as all the dividends you received over that period of time. You know, any gains in those shares as well. And then, of course, the 30% tax relief that you received from the beginning. These are fantastic vehicles that one needs to be considering and needs to be looking at when you're looking at not just how can we grow our money, but how can we reduce our tax bill today? Because actually, remember, it's not just about growing. It's actually, can we save the tax now to then reinvest later on and be tax efficient in that regard? Please note that these vehicles, these private equity vehicles are generally quite high risk. So I have to caveat that as my advisor hat on and make sure that nobody thinks this is just a pot of gold. That's easy money. So please do remember, please do get advice when it comes to these sort of private equity vehicles. Okay. But what I want to do is now talk about the 5 key areas that the wealthy do very well. As I said, over my years of working in this field, I've been very fortunate to work with some very wealthy individuals. And what I found is that, again, they're not doing anything extravagant. What they're doing is the basics. So I'm going to give you 5 things that they're going to be the wealthy do very well. And you can be like, really? Is that it? Is that all they're doing? But again, it's because it's the same thing doing over and over again over time. So the first thing I want to talk about is of course compound interest. Is your money working for you? And as I said, a bit of a brain teaser. Normally I would have a I think you can get to pick and decide, but I'm just going to throw it out there and just, it'll be interesting to see who's decided on what. We call it the £1, the 1p versus the £1 million. Okay. So if you had a choice, would you rather have £1 million today or a penny that doubled in value every day over the next 30 days? Now, normally, as I said, a lot of people hands up, throw it out there again. The choice, would you rather £1 million today or a penny that doubled in value every day for the next 30 days? Now,
I think we can invite people to just enter and
please do it. Please do it.
What people would say. So I think we can allow minutes and just allow people
of course. Please. Okay, we've got a minute. Go on. What would you say? Let me say it again. You had a choice. Would you rather be given £1 million today or a penny that doubled in value every day for the next 30 days? If we had that countdown tune. I can't see it on my side, so.
We're mostly getting penny a day.
Oh, penny a day. Okay, this is interesting. Nobody wants that £1 million up front, no.
Somebody says £1 million today would be good if then invested.
I forgot I'm dealing with lawyers. There's always caveats. Well, if you do this and that.
Well, I think we'll stop it there. But most of the answers, I would say about 80% of the answers were penny a day. And I think we had about 2 or 3 people who said £1 million today.
Understood. And I get that because actually when I first did the exercise, I was like, obviously $1 million, of course. But for those that went for the penny a day, at the end of day 30, your pot would be £5,368,709.12. So for those that went for the penny a day, clearly you've done this exercise before, because there's no way would you got that right so quickly. The reality is that, as Einstein put it, the eighth one of the world, compound interest. Is your money working hard for you as much as you are for it? The second area that we need to be focusing on is discipline. The philosophy of the rich and poor is this: the rich invest their money and spend what is left. The poor spend their money and invest what is left. Are you paying yourself first? Or are you paying everybody else first when you get paid? The third area, allowances. What the wealthy do very well, very, very well, is they make sure that they use their allowances every day, every month, every year. I know wealthy individuals that are doing pensions for their children already. And again, their thought process, it's free money. Why would I not do that? Why would I not give them that? Why would I not build that wealth for them already and build that free money? Now, of course, not everybody has the ability or the free or the surplus to be able to do things like that from the beginning. But I think it's super important that we are focusing on the most tax efficient vehicles first, which, to be very clear with everyone here, is the most boring assets. They're boring. They're boring. Protection, pensions, ISAs, they're not exciting. They're not property. They're not shares. They're not private equity. But guess what? They're the vehicles that give you the most tax efficient return for free. You're surprised sometimes when I sit down with people and I see these property portfolios and these shares. By the way, it's important to know I'm not against property. I'm not against property, but I think it's important that we have a balanced portfolio, utilizing all different asset classes. The fourth area that I think we should be looking at is budgeting. As I said earlier, when it came to discipline, are you paying yourself first? One of the people always ask me, give us a basic budget plan for us to follow. So here's one for you. And I didn't create this. This came from The Richest Man in Babylon. As you can tell, this is one of my favorite books. I read it every year, year in, year out. And it's what started me on my journey about 14 years ago or so. The basic budget plan: 10% of everything you earn is yours to keep. Goes back to the first thing that I said. Are you paying yourself first? For those that have debt, 20% of everything you earn is to pay off debt. Consolidate together, get budget together, pay off that debt. And then learn to live on 70% of your income. Because if you can learn to live on 70% of your income, you will always have money. You will always have money. And guess what? For those that have debt and have finished paying that debt off, if you've got that discipline down, what you will start to do is, once you've paid off that debt and you start saving that extra 20%, what are you now doing? You're actually now saving 30% of your money. I know it sounds so simple, but if you start have a basic and disciplined budget plan, your wealth will soar. By the way, it's important to remember that what we're not trying to do and tell everybody is not enjoy life. Life is not guaranteed. But what we are trying to do is say to everybody is, don't forget tomorrow's coming. Don't forget tomorrow's coming. And then lastly, purposeful saving. Purposeful saving. The wealthy do this very well. What we call sniper shooting. They have goals and objectives. What's your goal and objective in the next 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 15 plus years? How are you budgeting and saving for those goals and objectives? For example, everybody here is focused on, at some point, financial freedom. But if I ask you what your number is, how many of you can honestly answer that question? And what do I mean by number? What I mean by that is that what number do you need? What number do you need to be able to walk away? Be able to walk away from the rat race, you could say. And also what I mean by that is to be able to, as I said earlier, to be able to do the things you want to do rather than the things you have to do. Regardless of what everybody thinks right now, we have to work, no matter if we enjoy it or not. We have to work because we have to pay the bills. But you want to be in a position where you're doing it because you want to rather than because you have to. And that, for me, when you get to that position, that was what I would call real freedom, real wealth, because now you're living on your own terms. But reality is, what is that done for? How much does that cost you? What is that going to cost you? What are you doing today to help you achieve that goal and objective? Work with an advisor, shameless plug, of course. Regularly address those goals and objectives, making sure you're doing what you need to be doing to help yourself achieve those goals and objectives. Who are you accountable to? Key takeaways. So, time rather than timing. Remember, real wealth is created over time, not overnight. It's not what you make, but what you do with it, which determines how quickly you build wealth, generational wealth. The three key ingredients is money, time, and compound interest. And when we talk about generational wealth, what you leave is more important than how much. Are you helping or hindering? Protection, building your pensions, investments, private equity, some of the streams needed in wealth creation and legacy planning. Let's not forget things like wrappers, which allow you, trusts, family investment companies, etc. Three key ingredients is to creating real wealth: money, time, compound interest. And the 5 things we all need to be doing. Again, I keep banging on that compound interest, discipline, budgeting, purposeful saving, and make sure you utilize all of the allowances. I'd like to leave one final thought, if I may, and this is from probably arguably the most the best investor of our time, Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. And I always talk about his most famous investment and how long it took for that investment to come to fruition. Coca-Cola, the most famous investment he ever did. It took 20 years to come to fruition. What a patient man. What a patient man. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you all. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that, Jaron. Very good presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I picked up a couple of nuggets there. At this point, I would invite all of our attendees to, if you have a question, just to put it into the. Well, I think since I think there's an intimate number of us, and I think you can actually put those questions directly to Jaron. If you do have a question, just indicate first by raising your hand, and then I will ask people to pose their questions at an appropriate time. But please do indicate if you do have a question, and I'll be looking out for use. So that we can put those questions to Jaron. But just to get that started off, though, I think I'm going to start with a question that I want to hear an answer to. Jaron, I think at this stage we can stop the presentation so that we can see everyone, and so that we can see who's putting up a hand and who's not. But just to kick things off, I'm going to ask you a question about pension contributions. How early in one's career should one begin to think about one's pension and contributions?
Yeah. For me, I genuinely believe that you need to be starting from as soon as possible. And the reason why I say it like that is because everybody here is a lawyer, barrister, or in some sort of legal profession. The reality is that generally speaking, your earnings are going to soar. The older you get, the earnings are going to soar. So what I find is that typically one says, oh, when I'm earning more money, I would then focus on pensions. The problem in the UK is the more you earn, the less allowances they give you. So even though we talk about being able to contribute £60,000 to your pension today, the reality is that it's very dependent on how much you earn. So when you start to earn over around £250,000 mark, you start to lose your pension allowances. And you will get to a stage where the maximum you can put into your pension is £10,000 a year. Now, for those that are sort of at that higher level, that's not going to get you anywhere. You just lost the most tax efficient vehicle in the UK because you delayed. So for me, anything, even a small amount, is important, because remember, it goes back to the compound interest element. Even a small amount can blossom over a decade or two. Yeah, so we're very fortunate to work with a number of young pupils as well, just coming into the industry, and we always recommend that they put a small amount into a pension, small amount, but just build the habit of paying yourself first and paying for your future self. Your future self will not forget it.
I haven't seen any raised hands, so I'm going to follow very quickly with this question. And perhaps this one's a bit too, this is perhaps something you might want to speak to someone about in more of a private session, but is there some sort of formula for calculating how much one should be contributing?
When it comes to pensions,
Yes.
Some people would say, you've got your age, divide it by 2, and that percentage
I've
is
heard
going
that
into your
before.
pension. Yeah. And a lot of people go to that as a benchmark. I like to work backwards. So I always say, look, when I sit down with my clients, we talk about, what do you want? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? Everybody at some point wants to be able to walk away. Whether they physically do or not is neither here nor there. They have the ability. If they did, they can, and still maintain their lifestyle, if not more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my example. Okay, so don't judge me. This is my example. This is my life. This is what I want for myself. Okay, and I think let's be honest. Okay, so for me, I want to be in a position at 55 that if I decide to walk away, I can do. I want to have a minimum of 5K per month to be able to live the life I want to live. I'm fortunate to have some land in South Africa, so I want to be able to build on that. I also want to be able to be in a position to, I've got a love for Italy. Don't shoot me. I've got a love for Italy. So I want to have a flat in Italy, right? And of course the UK, where my kids are, where my family is. So right now I'm now thinking, okay, at the age of 55, I want to have a holiday home in Italy, a place in Africa, and then my main house in the UK. Of course, we want it paid off, because there's no such thing as financial freedom if you've still got debt, right? That doesn't make sense. And then, of course, 5K a month to live that life I want to live. So the first thing we want to calculate, okay, what pot size do we need to be able to live that life, right? So if I want to be able to stop working at 55, statistically speaking, 1 in 4 is living to 100. So I need to be planning for a 45-year period of 5K a month. Quick math, 2.7 million. Yeah. So I need a pot of size of 2.7 million to live that 45-year period. Does that mean I need 2.7 million at 55? No, I need approximately 1.5 to 1.8 million. I've got my target now. But I've just said that I want a house as well in Italy. I want my land in South Africa, as well as my main residence paid off in the UK. So let's say another million and a half. I've now got a 3 million target. What do I need to be doing on a yearly, monthly, daily basis today to help me achieve those goals and objectives? That's the way one should be thinking about when we talk about planning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm just going to check the chat to see if anyone has put in a question. No one else has put in a question yet. So I guess that allows me to follow up with a further question. I think a popular question that I've often heard is that that people sometimes feel that investing was for the rich and wealthy. Is there an income level at which one should ideally begin to invest, or is it something you can just start doing with any amount of with any level of income?
Yes. There are multiple ways that one can look at investing. Okay, so there's the sort of the DIY investments, do it yourself. The sort of the robo advisors, and there's obviously the advisors like similar to myself. With sort of like the robo advisors, you can start with as little as £1, and these sort of nutmegs, etc. DIY investments typically is around a £25 mark. With advisors, you might be, it depends on the advisor. It could be £100, £100, a couple £100, etc. Thousands, depending on what you're trying to do. But so I think first and foremost, it's important to note that there's always a way to get your money, to save and get your money working. No matter if there's, you're doing it by yourself, you're doing it via some computer algorithm, or whether you're working with an advisory firm. But I think most importantly, it really comes down to, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? What are your goals and your objectives? And working backwards and saying, right, okay, what do I need to be doing to be able to achieve that? What sort of level of income do I need to be achieving to also, help achieve those goals and objectives? And in some cases, what it does allow you to do is to be realistic about those goals and objectives as well, and say, maybe that £1 million house in 2 years is not quite achievable just yet. Maybe we're going to push that back by another couple of years. So that's what it also allows you to do. Be accountable to your goals and objectives as well.
Thank you for that. We've had 2 questions in the chat, so I'm going to put them both to you. The first is, do you have any thoughts on the lifetime ISA?
Lifetime ISA, that's an interesting question. So for me, the lifetime ISA is it's a good vehicle for those that have run out of pension contributions. Okay, so the lifetime ISA, just for clarity, is for two purposes: either for those that are trying to buy their first property, or for retirement at 60. Now, for me, you shouldn't be utilizing a lifetime ISA if you have the ability to contribute to a pension. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because with a lifetime ISA, you can't get access to it until 60, whereas as it stands today, you can get access to your pension from 55 onwards, and it will be rising to 57. Okay, so from 57 onwards, when we get to retirement, 2028, I think it is, you'll be able to access your pension. So for me, I would say that right now, as it stands today, a pension is a much more better vehicle for those that are looking to, looking for retirement. Now, if you've run out of pensions, i.e., you've got to that stage where you've maxed it out and now you can only put 10,000 a year, as I spoke about earlier, then yes, a lifetime ISA is a good vehicle to add to that retirement plan, because it gives you 25% for free. Yeah, but for those that are higher or additional rate taxpayers, remember the pension gives you 40 or 45%, whereas lifetime ISA only gives you 25%. Yeah. So
that's a very, very, very good point, because I do know a lot of people who are very keen on the lifetime ISA, younger people, but actually the point you make, that comparative point you make between that and the standard pension is a very good point, especially for lawyers who, or even any professional who's high earning. There are 2 further questions that I think I'm going to put to you together. One is, how do you find a good financial advisor? On that, I'll say we already have one in front of us. How do you find a good financial advisor? What do you need to look out for? And I think that's connected with the next question. How do you, Jiren, work with individuals who want to start this process? So how do you find a good financial advisor? And then I think you can pivot to yourself and tell us about how do you work with those who want to start out on this process?
Yeah. Look, a financial advisor is a very personal choice. I would argue, how do you find a good lawyer? I'll throw it back to you. How do you find a good lawyer? It's personal. You're not going to get on with everybody else. Everybody's not always going to get on with you. Yeah, I would say it has to come down to it's personal. A financial advisor, in theory, would be with you for the next 20, 25 years. First and foremost, you need to get on with them, because that's going to be a very bumpy journey if you keep clashing all the time. That's the first thing. So can you see yourself working with this person for the next 20, 25 years? Are they going to be there in 20 to 25 years? Yeah. Our industry, I didn't know this when I first started, but I actually think, I struck gold a little bit. And the reason why I say like that, right now, there's about 50,000 regulated advisors in the UK. I think about 60 to 70% of them are around the 50, 55 mark. So in the next 5 years, that It's going to go down from sort of 55,000 to maybe 20,000. Yeah. I'm going to be a rare commodity in theory. So the question really is, why would you be with a 55, 60-year-old who's probably going to retire in 5 years, and then you're going to have to start that process again? Do they have experience? Can you relate to them? Do they have experience in terms of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve? What have they done in the past? Who have they worked with? I think these are the questions you want to be asking yourself. Are they tied? Are they not tied? For example, we're independent. I used to be tied, which means I could only sell one financial product, one company's solution. We moved away from that into an independent model where we are not tied to any company. We are not tied to any one solution. We're not tied to any particular person or a company, which allows us to be independent. It allows us to be effectively, in theory, unbiased. Yeah. How are they getting paid? How are they getting remunerated? Are they getting paid to sell a particular solution, or are you getting are you getting remunerated and holistic advice and then getting remunerated accordingly? So these things are super important. I like to think that I'm a likable person, but not everybody here is going to like me. That's the reality of it. Yeah, that's the reality of it. Not everybody here is going to like me, but that's okay, because we've got a firm with 5, 6 other people as it stands today. So I'm sure you'll like one of them. But in terms of ourselves, the way that we work with our clients, we take our clients through a 2 to 3 meeting journey. And the reason for that is, it's important for us, one, that you get this, that you understand what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve here. What is your goal? What are your objectives? I keep talking about that. I keep talking about your goals and objectives, because really, ultimately, that's what drives what we do. And the reason why I say it like that is, have you ever been in a situation where you sort of bought your house, you bought that car you wanted, maybe you already got married, and you're sitting there sort of thinking, what do I do now? Yeah. You've done all sort of the quote unquote trappings of life. But when you were buying your house, you're super focused on that. You're saving, it's really energetic. You maybe even pot noodles once a week just to make sure you're topping up that savings pot. But when you've got nothing to strive for, when you've got nothing to aim for, you become a little bit lax. You become a little bit lackadaisical with your kind of savings. So that's why we always focus on goals and objectives, and what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. Second meetings, what we focus on is cash flow modeling. Typically, people are visual creatures. So what we do is we take them through a journey, show them, if you continue doing what you're doing through cash flow modeling, this is where you're going to end up. This is what's going to happen if you don't start, utilizing your money better. Yeah. There's a second reason why we plan to 100. It's not just that 1 in 4 lives to 100, but it's a 2-prong approach. If you die at 80, 90, guess what you've automatically done? You've automatically created generational wealth just by planning to 100. So it's that 2-prong approach of, what are you doing in terms of for the next generation? In my opinion, if you do the right things today for yourself, your next generation will automatically benefit from the hard work and the benefits that you put in place. So these are the things that we talk about, and these things this is the journey we take our clients through to make sure that, one, that they know exactly what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve. 2, they understand the focus. They understand what they need to be doing in every single trajectory to help them achieve their goals and objectives. And 3, most importantly, they understand how we can benefit them and how we can add value to their journey. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much for that, Jerry. It's just gone past 7, and we're supposed to finish at 7. But there's one more question in the chat that I want to put to you, so that all of the questions we've had from our guests have been addressed. And I think there is one question that I have that I want to put to you as well. So 2 more questions coming in.
2 more questions.
Then we'll close it for the evening. As soon as so this question's come from somebody who says, as someone who is embarking on her legal career with relatively small income, what advice would you give to a young person looking to make whatever income they have work for them?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
So essentially, what advice would you give to a young person looking to make whatever income they have work for them? So this is somebody who's just started out on their legal career. They're making money, but it's still relatively small compared to what they could in the long run. So what can they do now to make that money work for them?
The most important thing I tell, if I can use pupillage, those are in pupillage as an example, okay? The most important thing I tell them is budget. Budgeting is the most important thing. Allocation. Structure your bank accounts. So I'm very structured when it comes to that. I'll give you an example of me. I'm very structured when it comes to bank account. There's one account I have, which is for all my income and all my direct debits. One account, all comes in, all goes out. My second account is my living account. I pay myself money every month. I pay myself a salary, pay myself a wage. Even though I'm self-employed, I pay myself a salary, pay myself a wage every month. That is a direct debit automatically. It comes from that account number 1 to account number 2. Account number 3 is my backup fund, my emergency fund. Again, I have a direct debit for account number 1. That direct debit's a chunk of money into account number 3. Account number 4 is a holiday account. We've all got to relax. We've all got to, chill out. How much are you spending on holidays every year? Put that money into that account every single month, because the worst thing you do is, or what most people do is, I want to go on holiday. Spin the globe. Where do we want to go? Okay, put a marker there. Look in the bank account. I don't have enough money. What do we do then? Credit cards. What a great idea. No, it's not a good idea. Go into that bank account. How much do we have in there? Okay, that's how much we can spend. That's how much we be structured, be disciplined. Fifth account is for sort of, especially for barristers, that sort of that account where, maybe for your taxes, maybe for something like that, your taxes you've got to pay yourself. You got to pay at the end of the year. So, I would say budgeting is the first thing I'll be telling a young person, or a young entry into your world. Budgeting. Be structured with your accounts. Be structured with who you're paying and how you're paying them. And it's not about living tightly, but it's about being conscious of your spending. And I think that's where it comes to paying yourself and making sure that's the only card you take out with you every day. Because once it's gone, it's gone. And have that real discipline that once it's gone, it's gone. But also remember tomorrow's coming. So make sure you're contributing and paying your tomorrow self as well. Hope that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. So for the final question, and this is for the benefit of those with children, for those with children, what sort of solutions should they be thinking about?
So we touched on earlier about JISAs, junior ISAs for kids. For me, one of the things that I think one should be looking at is, or conscious of, is that when you get to 16, the government sends a letter to the child to say, guess what mum and dad's been doing for you? And at the age of 18, they are legally allowed to take every penny out of that account. So we have to be mindful of that. Okay. Now, if you're anything like me and you come from that strict household, just because it's in your name doesn't mean it's your money. I'm sure you know that. So if you've got that discipline on lock, then fine, no problem at all. For those that may be a bit wary of that, or a bit concerned about that, the JISAs are a great option, but limit how much you're going to put into that every single month. Every single month, how much you're going to pay into that. And then I would say utilize your own ISAs as a sort of like that top-up element. And that sort of gives them an element of that sort of when they get to 18, they've got a chunk of money to manage to look after. But it's in, I like to say box, you put them in a box and the rest of the money is held in your ISA account where you've got a lot more freedom and then you can pass that over to them. You remember, withdraw that in a tax-free way. So that's the way I would say for children, that's what one's got to be thinking about and how I would structure it, or how I do structure it for my kids.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Jerry. I really appreciate that. You've been absolutely excellent. The presentation was very interesting, and more interesting was the discussion we had at the end there, where you were answering those questions. I know that people who have attended have appreciated it. There are some comments there that suggest that that's the case. So I thank you ever so much for taking the time out to come and speak to the BNLF, our members and our guests here this evening. You're clearly an expert on your topic. So we thank you for your time. I would also like to thank everyone else here that has attended. I know some people have gone now and it is getting late, but I would like to thank all of our attendees. Thank you for coming to gain some financial knowledge that you can use to benefit yourself in the future. On that note, I would invite you to, I think, Jerry, if you want to load up that presentation again and put up your contact details at the end. So people can see it just as I'm saying thanks. So Jaron's contact details are there. Please make a note of them and contact him if you have any further questions. Like I said at the very beginning, those that have registered and attended this event, Belvedere Group are offering a free consultation. So please take advantage of it. It's essentially an opportunity to have a free, no obligation conversation, with Jaron and his team, and just to find out what they can do to help you. And I'm sure that will develop your insight a bit more than what you could have obtained from this more general but still very useful presentation that we've had here to 20 plus people. So yeah, do take advantage of that. Just make sure that when you do contact them, you mention that you attended this event and mention the BNLF, and then they'll be able to give you that free consultation. Please do look out for our next event, which should be next month. We're hoping to put on a summer networking drinks at the end of next month, thereabouts. So please look out for information about that. That will be the next BNLF event, I think. And also, go to our website. That's www.bnlf.org.uk for information about the organization and membership, and check out our new online members directory. And we've set it up to make it easier for lawyers in the UK to find lawyers in Nigeria that they may want to instruct or they may want to work with or just connect with, and vice versa for lawyers in Nigeria to find lawyers in the UK. So, join the membership, create your profile there. It's free for, I think, another month. We launched it in March, I believe, and we've made it entirely free to join. If you join before June, the membership of it is for a year, so you're going to have that benefit for a whole year before then having to renew next year and then pay the fee for the directory. So take advantage of it now. I invite all lawyers and students to create a profile, and so that you can be seen. So on that note, I thank you all again for coming. Jaron, thank you so much again, and I wish you all a very good evening.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening, everybody.